It's just manipulating the mindset.
Mystical creature.
Someone thought, oh no, we've been hacked.
Yeah, what is it?
Phone with the long, twisty cable.
From hacker to a business leader, meet George Ralph, who is a passionate cybersecurity expert, who even calls himself a cyber fanatic. Several years ago, a personal tragedy turned his life upside down, but he says it made him a better person.
If you're not expecting it, question it.
We wanted to do a life experiment with you.
An investor would give you the due diligence questionnaire and just say, tell me where they've lied.
What was the scary part?
That's a bit challenging. Okay, so...
George, nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
Yeah. You know, for many people, a hacker is kind of a mystical creature. So they heard about that a lot of the news, but never met one. You used to be a hacker. So could you share with us what drives those people most? Is it money or it's adrenaline to succeed? What is
Fame.
that? Yeah, what is it?
I think it is partly fame in that they want to see what they can achieve and see what they can break. I mean, when I first got into technology, it was normally because my father would come home with some kind of gadget that the law firm had given him. I remember once he had a car phone with the long twisty cable and he said, I'm never going to use it. You can play with it if you want. I took the whole thing apart, tried to find out how it worked, tried to break it, tried to fix it. And I think that's kind of the mentality of a hacker. That's where everyone starts. And it's the value you give yourself on trying to see if you can break it. You know, we're told it's secure. It's a bank.
Okay.
You can't get in. That's literally like saying to every man in the world, don't push the red button.
Reminds me a bit of those hacker movies from the 80s and early 90s where all of a sudden you caused World War III. Yeah.
War games.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
More the same age.
Yeah, and they had tweed jackets as well, probably.
There's a pattern maybe, yeah.
A disguise.
So do you think that kind of money plays less a role, not that important? Because we hear about all these big cyber communities that are hacking banks, etc., etc. Is it also kind of drive because they want fame, or it's kind of money thing?
I think it's got easier to get money from hacking because you've got the ability to do ransomware attacks. ChatGPT can help you work out how to do that. And then it's easy to collect the money through Bitcoin, etc., for payments. Whereas before, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't even have mobile phones. There was no PayPal. There's no ability to transfer money online. So hacking was more about taking physical things and asking for them to go and give you some cash to give it back. So I think because it's got easier, the perception of it being a financial reward is probably right. But it's literally because people are doing more random attacks that might be successful. But I'm trying to think of an analogy here. So if you were doing it in the old days, it was more about social engineering. And I think we're going to talk about some examples of how I've been involved in that in the past. But now, if you think about where people work mostly, they're not in the office. So social engineering physically is less of a rewarding hack because people aren't there. You're busy, bustling
What
offices.
do you mean by social engineering?
So social engineering is it's pretty much every hack where there's a negotiation to get something back. So phishing attacks now are a form of social engineering because you're manipulating what someone's looking at to make them think it's safe.
Understand. Okay.
Back in the day, it would be going into a physical premises and taking something of the technology. And I think we talked about this before. I have an example of that where I had to do a social engineering test on a large asset manager in Germany who was being bought by a bank. I'm not going to mention the names, like I did when we talked before. And I used LinkedIn to work out the profile of the people that I thought would most likely have their laptops exchanged or be a test case for new technologies. And then I spent a couple of days looking at the security shifts downstairs and the cleaners and managed to actually get in early in the morning before 6 o'clock, tell the cleaners that I had 2 laptops I needed to exchange for the CTO and COO. they asked me some questions. I said, it's the second office on the right. This is his name. They went, oh, okay, yeah, okay, fine, yeah, we'll let you up. And then I waited till 8:45 when he came in, lying on his sofa. Not quite like that, but lying on his sofa with his laptop in my hand and a dummy one on his desk.
This was a story, I couldn't believe it in our prep call. Wow.
But I find it extremely interesting, because nowadays we believe that hacking is more software, right? There's some people sitting, I don't know, in Africa or another country and who penetrates your network, right? And this is also something dealing with cybersecurity, but it's totally, first of all, gathering information from open sources and using them, right?
Yeah.
So you are not penetrating their systems or something like that, right? So.
No, I mean, you're penetrating their office, which is their secure systems. There's a lot of companies out there who are ex-military professionals who just charge for that service. So some of the big firms that are regulated around the world, they won't just do the soft hacking, as you're talking about, penetration tests, vulnerability scans, etc. They'll also do a physical test. You just won't hear about that as staff members. Because if they tell you they've done it once, it's going to change their ability to have a successful test again in the future. But a lot of people for big firms, they do this. They do physical social engineering tests every year.
Cool.
You mentioned in our prep conversation something like ethical and non-ethical hacking, when it's the correct phrase.
Yes.
What did you mean by that? Now we know, but our audience would be curious.
Well, penetration testing is a form of ethical hack because you're giving someone a user account. You're giving them permission to hack or test the hack of the network.
And they stand behind your back and look.
Yeah. And then they... Yes.
I get scared.
Yeah, we talked about some of the cyber assessment training that I have and certifications, and I'll come back onto that in a minute.
Please do.
When we talk about how to hack, I'll come onto that. But the ethical hacking really is a permissions-based hack to see where your vulnerabilities lie. Back in the day, we didn't really, and I'm talking, mid to late 90s, no one really tested their systems in this way. So ethical hacking wasn't really something that people would want or need. They didn't think about it. It's kind of like other negative news that we have in the press that we didn't think about back then, because access to data and information and what's happened to people didn't exist, really. I'm sure lots of companies got hacked in the early 90s, but they didn't have a mechanism of informing the world or the regulator, or maybe they didn't even know. Yeah. Maybe some of the hacks we're seeing now are because malware was put in the systems in the 90s. I'll come on to that.
With all the banking systems that are dating back to the 80s, 90s, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So, some of the old trading terminals.
Don't shock anyone.
and my experience was that, probably 20 years ago, an investor would give you the due diligence questionnaire and just say, tell me where they've lied. There's no informing the fund or the portfolio company that you're going to hack them and test them. It's just go for it. Tell us where they lied. Oh. Whereas now that's illegal. Oh. Even if you've got money in the firm or the fund, it's still illegal. You still need to get permission because it's not your business. So I've had a few scenarios where I've actually gone to the hedge fund manager and said, I've been asked to do this and I've done it, and it's not very good. You've passed 1 out of 50 questions. They know your other investors that are already invested. So do you want me to help you fix it? Then I'll do another test and then I'll go back to them. That's where ethical hacking started, really, by people doing that. But originally it was because a hacker would be paid to hack and then they could make the same money again by fixing the problems. Oh. So they were double charging. Oh. Double dipping, we call it.
But now in your experience of doing ethical hacking, have you had once a case that there were no vulnerabilities, that everything was perfect?
No.
No, it's always something.
Yeah, always. You can always find it. It's like life and relationships. If you've got a purpose to find something negative, you're going to find it. Because in your mind, you're going to flip to thinking there's something bad, even though there isn't.
Sounds very abusive now. Yeah.
But you could say, well,
corporate relationships.
yeah, yeah. We can't talk about those. But I think I've had some scenarios before where I've been able to get into a system, but I've taken a pragmatic approach with the hedge fund, for example, and said, well, it's 5 people, they're 50 million AUM. You have to take a view on, do you spend thousands and thousands of pounds protecting your system on the random chance you get hacked and then not be able to afford to do something else that would help your performance, or go on a roadshow doing marketing because you've got 2 files instead of 1, or there's a level, I think, of spend that's right. And sometimes you go into locations where they've got 3 copies of the same database, hosted by 3 different companies, protected by 3 different, and you're just tripling your cost for there's no benefit. Most hacks are random. So
reminds me a bit of those early crypto platforms when you talk about 50 AUM for the audience, that is non-financial assets under management. But you still can get a 5 to 10 million or whatever kind of hit, and to overcome or to recover is killing the business more or less. So it doesn't need to be in the billions.
The thing is, most of the successful hacks, although most of the time you can recover now, because it tends to be the processes of financial transfers have failed or something like that. It's normally individuals not understanding their repercussions of what they're doing. So we had one firm that was 600 AUM, I think. And they had some technology support, right? They were not a client of RFA's, but they became one because of what happened. But he happened to be a friend of mine. So I don't know why he wasn't a client already. But that's a conversation to have with him another time. But he decided to get a new iPhone, and rather than wiping his old one before he gave it away, he just gave the phone to his son, who downloaded a game. The game had malicious content on it, which got access to his emails and started emailing out his clients.
Oh, no. Oh,
so
my God.
I basically came in and said to him, look, log on to your Office 365, remove the devices, all of them, and then we'll add them back in. So he still wasn't a client, just helping him try and recover. Then what happened is he had a legal transaction that he had to do with his lawyers and one of the investors. I think it was a redemption or something like that, but it was for a small amount. It was for 13 million. And the law firm, unknown to them, someone else had come in from outside and added themselves to the email chain for the transaction. And there was 1 letter different in the law firm's email domain. So everyone thought it was the lawyer. Mm-hmm. And they just changed the bank account details on the transaction. But because the bank, whose name I'm not going to mention but did last time, accepted the transaction with evidence from a fax, which they're not supposed to do anymore, they actually had to give the money back. But because it had happened, he had to inform his investors, and then they had redemptions. But now they're back up again quite large. But that was literally because he gave his phone to his son.
What do you think is the best way to protect yourself from cyber attack? I understand that it's a huge question, but if you could give us some...
Well, you need to get someone, find a friend who knows about it. I think it's about education. You know, we have so much access to data. I was teaching a client the other day. He said, how do you know always about the latest regulation that's linked to cyber? And I said, well, I have the internet. And I have my chatbot that I've taught specifically on all the regulations around the world and how they refer to RFA and our client types. So I can tell you exactly what Section 15R means in the latest FCA regulatory report. So how do you know that? Well, because I've just asked the bot now by recording my question to you now. There's so many questions, and people are still not necessarily using, or maybe they're not trusting the data. But you could say, how do I protect my hedge fund from cybersecurity protection? Attack. What's the best IT firm to use that specializes in my type of business? It's all there. I think, like I said earlier, it has to be pragmatic, because there's so much online marketing from cybersecurity companies.
I understand.
And they also are mainly PE owned now because they've been so successful. So you have to find the right type of company to help.
So loopholes and the ignorance of those is nowadays rather a choice, if I listen to you. If you don't want to know, although it's all laid bare, more or less. If your chatbot, so it's principally no rocket science for anyone.
I think the only thing that you wouldn't know from searching is which, I'm going to use the word products, which products actually work and which ones don't. And that's where you need to sort of cross-reference and double-check with someone that you know who knows, or someone who's already learnt the hard lesson. You know, there's some, if we take something basic like a firewall, there's some firewalls that are very expensive for a reason. They have the latest patches, they have the latest firmware, they have the latest protection. You could pay €2,500 for that, maybe more if you're an enterprise. Then there's some firewalls that you get given for free with your internet line for a reason.
Yeah.
They have the password printed on the bottom. You know, you can Google the model number and find out the password.
But on the other hand, we cannot guarantee that the most expensive products are the best ones, right? So sometimes
Correct.
they're just expensive for no reason.
And the expensive ones require someone with specialist knowledge to configure.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they become even more expensive. I think the best thing if you're a business and you've got a need for cybersecurity help is to just ask whoever it is you're being referred to for case studies and references. It's still the best way. You know, a lot of technology firms, including us, you know, we have partnerships with Palo Alto, Meraki, Cisco, most of the big firewall providers. Because we're regulated, we don't resell that technology. We will pick whichever one's best for the client. But a lot of IT firms are resellers of technology, so they will promote whichever firewall gets them the best margin for the deal for that firewall, which might not be the best for the client. And that's something we see quite a lot. I mean, we've just ripped out a firewall for someone in the US, one of our clients, because it was not the right firewall for them. And they've only just bought it 6 months ago on a 3-year deal. But it was just not working for them. It was a risk.
I understand the commercial motivation, of course, but it looks like a massive downside.
It is.
Okay.
Just don't trust the wrong people. How do we find the right people? I don't know.
You know, AI opened new horizons for ordinary people, but also for cyber criminals. If you remember this case, I found it just amazing that cyber criminals made a deep fake of a financial director, I think, of one of the companies, and they made the company pay several millions just because they watched this deep fake telling them to make the transfer. Do you remember this story? So how would you advise your clients in this case?
So we heard about that story because the company did the right thing and reported it.
Yeah, but the money were gone, right? So
yeah,
it's more the tip of the iceberg, I think.
Yeah, okay. Because deepfake is not just videos. I don't know if you saw the video from the recruiter who was saying when they recruit people now, do the interviews online, the first thing they do is get them to turn their head left. Oh, that's right.
Oh, yes.
And right and left, up and down. But to hold their passport up next to their face and say the expiry date of the passport, because it's not expected from the deepfake video. And you can see the mouth sort of moving, but not the rest of the face. I think... For me, the biggest fear is actually deepfake that's just noise, like it's just the voice. Because you can train your agentic bots to copy your voice and you would have no idea. How would you, if your CEO calls you and says, oh, can you make the transfer? This is the thing, I can't get hold of anyone, I'm stuck on the tube. Yeah. How do you check that?
Yeah, exactly. So what would be your advice? What to do in this situation? Say, no, I'm not sure. You're not a deepfake.
My advice is to make sure you have really good traditional controls. Like if you could have a process that says, look, if we have to do a financial transaction, it's an emergency, 2 people have to call separately. It's all about the controls in a traditional sense. Everything we've always had operationally to make sure checks and balances are done before transactions are made. I think people need to just be pragmatic about what they're expecting as well. It's a little bit like phishing attacks and the training that we give on phishing. If you're not expecting that email, the likelihood is it's not real. If it comes and it's not real, you're not expecting it, you need to have a process in place to check why that's happened. It's common sense, a lot of it. And now what we're seeing is a lot more smishing attacks. So text messages, WhatsApp, all of that kind of stuff. And they'll target executives. So it's just about, are you expecting that?
Gut feeling.
Yeah. And if you're not sure, check.
Okay.
So AI, one thing, or relying on your hopefully existing NI, natural intelligence, or gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see other threats connected to AI?
I think the biggest thing I'm scared about with AI is the ability, well, apart from my children's education and what they're going to do when they're older, but it's the ability for anyone to very, very quickly work out how to hack. You know, we've seen scenarios where there's bad leavers from companies who then just leave. They're upset, maybe a little bit emotional, not good EQ at the time. They suddenly make the wrong decision. They go to the chatbot. How do I hack them? How do I take the business down? The AI is a child. It just wants to please whoever the coder is and the prompter. So it will tell them.
And this wording on AI is like a child reminds me of this fintech conference some weeks or a month ago in Luxembourg, because you have managed as the very first guest to have been in a previous episode without physically being in the studio, because Laurent Scherer talked about a fintech conference on that day morning when we had the recording and referred to a friend. So you are the friend he was referring to.
Someone likes me.
Yeah, I like you too.
You remembered me from scaring the audience, probably.
In a nice way, of course.
Yeah, but what was the scary part of your speech?
I was telling them that the AI is like a child, but when you're thinking about how you secure your data with AI, you have to think a bit like a traditional database. But the database is just intellectual property that's not protected yet until you teach it how to use the data. Okay. I said a few other things as well, but it was a legal conference. So a lot of it was about resilience, regulation, how to use AI.
We wanted to do a live experiment with you and just to ask you, provide us with some case, and we'll, with Thorsten, try to solve that.
No, I'm scared.
A life hack scenario.
No, you just tell us the case, recent case from your experience.
Okay.
That something happened, and we try with Thorsten to solve it, to say what happened or what
could have been a potential solution.
Who was the criminal?
Okay.
You can do it.
That's a bit challenging. Okay, so a firm recently in the office, they lost all access to their emails. And then a 20-page document came out of the printer with a QR code saying, we are going to encrypt your data unless you pay the ransom. Scan the QR code to pay the ransom. So one of the executives scanned the QR code, which then enabled the ransomware and encrypted all the systems.
Okay.
So how would you find out the source of that, and what would you do to recover?
Expert advice, calling the MI6, maybe. I'm not charging for this advice, by the way. No idea.
Well, it's really challenging, you know, without knowing the details. You just like the description is quite, and I mean this kind of case that happens often, right? I would think.
I think so. We just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
What I find interesting with these cases, it's like we said earlier, social engineering. It's just manipulating the mindset into someone thought, oh no, we've been hacked. I need access to the data, so I should scan it. But actually they hadn't.
Oh yeah.
Nothing had
had this
happened
with
yet.
my computer as well. I had this too, that I had emails saying that I've been hacked, whereas I wasn't. So I checked, it was everything fine. But they just told me that they blocked my computer, but which was not.
Yeah.
And so it's more or less the same, but
It's
on
like
the,
a phishing attack,
on
but from a
huge
printer.
scale, of course, not
Yeah.
on the really different. Wow.
Yeah.
And did you manage to help the company?
Well, as soon as the guy scanned it, we had alerts all over our system. So we called him and said, disconnect all the computers. Then we sort of scanned everything and managed to stop it before it encrypted all the data.
Wow.
Luckily, because they had the right alert systems in place. But it could have been bad. I mean, they could have encrypted all of their systems. And then it could have been...
In this case, it was really a pace of execution.
Yeah. Yeah. I just find it fascinating that... and it's what I said, if you're not expecting it, question it. Why would someone print to warn you that it's going to happen? It's not, it's common sense. Really.
Yeah, I was just trying to say the same thing. Common sense is not very common sometimes. Yeah.
I think also these days, especially with email attacks, since COVID, everyone gets a lot more email. I don't know if you've noticed, but no one hardly ever calls me.
Bursting every day.
Yeah. We used to have phone calls. You talk to someone, take 2 minutes, you find the solution, everyone's happy. Now you have 50 emails back and forth.
Yes.
Maybe 5 lines of text, which actually they would take 30 seconds to say. We don't communicate as well anymore as the human race, I think. There's too many options for communication to avoid confrontation. And the avoiding confrontation creates ability for hackers to manipulate that because people don't want to have it. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but you see what I mean? There's so much data. People are rushing through emails and they don't read them properly.
Yeah.
Then mistakes happen.
So we also wanted to ask you some quite personal questions. You mentioned that several years ago you had a personal tragedy that turned your life upside down, but it also made you a better person, as you mentioned. Could you tell us more about this?
Yeah. So I had a daughter that passed away, and it's one of the things that made me move from being a techie, hidden in a cupboard, working, because I was the CTO of a company then. So if something went wrong with a client, I would be the one who was the final point of escalation to fix it. So I had many overnights with a can of beer and a pizza while I'm trying to fix someone's database. And it just made me flip my mentality into focusing more on people, helping people, being around people, and actually having that ability that's very technical and understanding the technical nuances of how things work, but also having a desire to speak to people. It's quite rare to have the ability to translate technology into people and vice versa and communicate. So it's helped me a lot as an individual progress, but it's also helped me focus on people more and looking after people, which makes me a better person, maybe.
Oh, I mean, to talk about the departure of a child is certainly the most intense, one of the most intense topics you can discuss in a podcast. And I must admit, I'm struggling a bit. And I love you for that because life happens at the executive suite as it happens at the reception. So in this regard, there are no differences. But I love you for this statement because it reminds me of something I did wrong when my mother passed away way before her time, because I did it exactly the wrong way. So I was really making a deep dive into work just to make it go away, which has extended the period to bemoan passing. So what you just said, if I could live this moment again, would it be exactly the same? And I think there's also something others will love you for.
It distracts you, work distracts you from things. And I think You know, my job as a leader is to mentor people through their problems. And I think before it happened, I would have said, you know, take all the time you need, go and sort yourself out. And they probably would have ignored me and focused on work. Whereas now I would focus on that individual. You know, I've had a friend and colleague recently whose father passed away, and he didn't want to go back to where his father lived to spend time with him. He wanted to focus on work, and I kind of forced him to do that. I've had someone whose wife wanted to leave him and was with someone else, and I forced him to take 3 months off work and spend the time and fix a relationship, and 6 years later they're still together. And I think as a leader, it's really important to look after and protect your people, but also give the benefit of your experience to help them not make mistakes.
I promise the audience there will be something uplifting very soon in a few minutes.
Oh, we'll talk about cars, great.
I promise. Yeah. Thanks for the hint. But it just proves again, so because I'm 50 or a few years younger than myself, but there were also various, for everyone in the audience or in our episodes, were life-changing moments where most of the time you have been absolutely rock bottom. That has enabled this complete personal turnaround. And just then hearing, of course, about caring about people more. Mental health is something we have written on our YouTube channel as description. All those things that make you a better executive leader in your business life, but also a better private person. Because for me personally, for my life events, and I just learned in our prep call about your departed daughter. If you reflect on that, compared to this, everything becomes kind of light. Because I know we are friends, right? We met in London, in Notting Hill, at a birthday party of a common dear friend of us. Because I see you always smile. I mean, it's now on record because from the first minute in now again.
It's only because I just realized we're friends.
Because it makes things look kind of like in comparison. Yeah. So that also, of course, helps you to bypass the one or the other struggle in your private life and in business that is, of course, not as tragic as what you have just been describing.
It sets a reset on life, I think.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. No, it's true.
I think one part of being successful business leader is also being vulnerable a bit. So that's why my next question is, could you share with us your biggest flop in your professional career, if you can?
I think the biggest one probably was when I had my own company, maybe 4 companies ago. And I was called into a firm that's a media company, and one of their clients was Warner Brothers. And they had some physical servers in their office. I mean, this is a long time ago. It's probably maybe 19, 20 years ago. And it was a traditional hard drive system in their server, which is what we call a RAID 5 array. So it's 3 hard drives with the data striped across. And I told them that I could recover it. And when you have RAID 5, you have to take the drives out, but you have to put them back in a specific order. And when we took them out, I think I went to make a tea or coffee or something. My engineer took them out. He hadn't labeled them. And we didn't know what to do then. We're then guessing. There's like a 1 in 3, and we actually put them back in the wrong order, wiped the data. It actually wiped over itself.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And it taught me about the diligence of data and the importance of how processes are and following process. And we actually managed to get it back because they had a backup, thankfully. But the fear factor then, they've got all of their press releases on there, the photographs from the last 6 weeks, that was quite that was from a work perspective, that was a real you have to do these things properly and in order.
And I would love to have a follow-on question, because we just gave a hint on cars and racing. So you're a petrol head.
Yes,
I've seen.
I freely admit it.
At least I've seen one of your cars when I'm at your house back then. Yeah. So, and talking about challenges in this, literally high pace environment. How did this affect in a positive way your career, your private life, your ambitions, how to overcome challenges, etc.?
It's my off switch from work,
Mm-hmm.
apart from my children, but they are kind of work in a very different sense.
We all have
The
kids, so we understand.
yeah, it's my off switch, but it's also healthy adrenaline, and it allows me to get my competitive needs out of the way, not at work. When I started, both my brothers raced in the same series, and my older brother, who's 56 now, said, "You need to join the racing. I'll be too old." And he was actually younger than me, as I am now at the time, so it was just an excuse to get me in. Now I've got 3 race cars that I race, different series, and it's a time commitment. Sometimes I get the time to do it, sometimes I don't, but it's a good way of switching off entirely from work, because if you're not thinking about the corner and the tyres and your braking and getting through the 1 hour race without having to put more fuel in and the gauges, and you're going to have an accident and it's going to be bad. So it forces me to think about nothing than that for an hour. So solid.
So it's good to have this bubble, so to say.
Yeah.
For me, it's jazz. For you, it's racing, but it's important to have.
Yeah. I mean, I love reading books, and
Awesome.
I read every night. It takes my mind away from the day, resets me for the next day. But
Cool.
I'll still be thinking about work things when I'm reading it. It doesn't fully work for me. It's only the racing.
Understand.
And now we have a traditional question. Could you share with us 3 main lessons you learned in your life?
Don't use slick tires in the rain.
Mhm.
That was a painful lesson.
Mhm.
I think always take on work challenges that you think you can't do yet. Like, challenge yourself. Don't only challenge yourself with things you know you can do, but also go for things you think maybe you can't. And I don't mean jump out of a plane without a parachute or something. I mean sensible work decisions.
Mhm.
And I think the last one is just focus on helping people. If you help people, the traditional saying is, treat your neighbour as you want to be treated. I think the saying still works. Look after people and you'll be looked after.
Well, thank you so much for this interview. It was super interesting.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
so much for being here.
Thank you.
If you like our conversation, please subscribe so the algorithm will know that the conversation was interesting and YouTube algorithm will recommend it to more and more people.